Hello, my name is Anita Morgun. This is News Pulse at UA TV. Welcome to the daily segment. Today in the episode, more than $9 billion, Wildberries warehouses losses are exceed record level after Ukrainian attacks. Putin visits Russian-occupied northern territories. Japan prepares a response. Russian ships are now helpless in their own ports. More in our story for you. Ust-Luga gas condensate processing complex damaged by Ukrainian drone attack. The General Staff of Ukraine has confirmed the hit. The three processing units at Novatek's Ust-Luga complex each have capacity of 3 million metric tons a year, refining stable gas condensate into light and heavy naphtha, jet fuel, ship fuel oil and gas oil. The complex processed 3.8 million tons of gas condensate in the first half of this year. Ust-Luga is also one of Russia's main oil export terminals, loading about 700,000 barrels per day of crude. Earlier, it has been targeted repeatedly by drone attacks. Wildberries network losses may reach 800 billion rubles or $9.5 billion due to drone strikes. According to Forbes, the company could have already lost about 20% of its warehouse space. Up to 279 billion rubles may be needed to restore the marketplace warehouses and infrastructure. If complete dismantling of damaged facilities, removal of garbage, and reclamation of the territories are required, the cost would increase manifold. Tokyo protested to Moscow over Putin's visit to the Russian-occupied northern territories. At the head of the Japanese government emphasized Etorofu Island, or Iturup as it's known in Russia, as an integral part of Japan according to historical context and international law. The Kremlin dictator's uncoordinated visit contradicts Tokyo's consistent position and further deteriorates bilateral relations. The Japanese Foreign Ministry has already summoned the Russian ambassador to convey an official protest to Moscow.
Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Japan-Russia relationship has been in a difficult state. Even under such circumstances, Japan has made every possible effort to improve the relationship. However, this visit will only deepen negative sentiment towards Russia in Japan and make it harder to rebuild relations for the long term.
Putin's visit to Japan's northern territories occupied by Russia is a provocation by the Kremlin, stated acting Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha. The diplomat noted that no attempt by Russia to impose an occupation can legitimize it.
Moscow only understands the language of strength. The aggressive Russian regime does not appreciate, respect, or reciprocate constructive steps. Ukraine's position is unwavering. Japan's sovereignty over the northern territories is grounded in historical facts and international law. No visit, no passage of time, and no attempt to impose a fait accompli can legitimize occupation. Russia uses the same imperial playbook everywhere. It occupies foreign land, militarizes it, threatens its neighbors, and then tries to make the world accept the illegal as irreversible. Ukraine knows this pattern all too well. It must not succeed, whether in Europe or in the Pacific. Andriy Sybiha, acting foreign minister of Ukraine on X.
Putin uses a secret armored train. He's also deployed fake corteges to hide from Ukrainian drones, according to the New York Times. Observers note that Russian television has long been using so-called canned videos. These are pre-recorded clips of the Kremlin leader, presented as breaking news. Meanwhile, the dictator's security details is constantly inventing new ways to hide him from Ukrainian drones, which are striking virtually all of European Russia and even as far away as Western Siberia. Furthermore, false reports about Putin's whereabouts are increasingly being used. Ukraine is systemically targeting the Russian Black Sea Fleet, depriving the aggressor of its last safe harbors. After the enemy ships were driven out of Crimea, their final outpost Novorossiysk came under the attack. A combined attack by Ukrainian Neptune missiles and Palyanytsia drones not only destroyed the military base, but also blocked the occupier's key logistics arteries. Watch this story to learn how technology is changing the rules of naval warfare and why Russian ships are now helpless in their own ports.
Ukraine's armed forces will put Russia's war machine out of action. That is how Ukraine's acting defense minister Yevhen Kamara described the Ukrainian military's unique operation in Novorossiysk. He stressed that long-range operations will become increasingly large-scale and more difficult for Russia to counter.
The combined strike was carried out using missiles, jet-powered drones, and maritime drones. Russia proved powerless against the synchronized operation of Ukrainian strike capabilities. This is the result of joint efforts and growing synergy within the defense forces. Expanding deep strikes against Russia is one of our key priorities. Together with Commander-in-Chief Mikhailo Drapati, the General Staff, the Unmanned Systems Forces, the Security Service of Ukraine, other components of the defense forces, and our defense manufacturers, we will continue to increase this pressure. Yevgeny Kamara, Acting Minister of Defense of Ukraine, on Facebook.
On the night of August 12th, Ukraine's defense forces struck a Russian military base in Novorossiysk with Neptune missiles and Palyanitsia drones. The facility is located more than 300 kilometers from the front line. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, it is the Russian Black Sea Fleet's last major stronghold in the region. Zelensky added that hits on Russian air defense positions, piers, and port infrastructure have been confirmed.
Our Palyanitsia jet-powered drones, Neptune missiles, and maritime unmanned systems precisely hit their designated targets. Hits on air defense positions, piers, and port infrastructure have been confirmed. The Russian occupation fleet and all the infrastructure supporting it will not be safe as long as Russian aggression continues. The war must be stopped, and all reasonable proposals for diplomacy are on the negotiating table. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Расширение географии.
The expansion of the geography of the war through our capabilities and initiatives, as well as the capabilities of the Ukrainian Navy and, in general, the Ukrainian armed forces, is forcing the Kremlin to understand that Ukraine is a strong adversary capable of expanding the battlefield. Ukraine is a strong state, and, in the 5th year of the war, it is still capable of launching sudden and justified strikes against Russia's military-industrial infrastructure that serves the interests of the Russian armed forces. That is an important point.
In August, Ukraine's unmanned systems forces struck more than a dozen vessels that Russia used to support its military and economic operations. This triggered a major crisis in Russian petroleum product exports through the Black and Azov Seas, which fell by almost half in July. Ukraine's defense forces are also conducting a systematic campaign to isolate Russian-occupied Crimea, regularly striking military airfields, logistics hubs, and energy infrastructure on the peninsula. Ukraine's general staff officially confirmed the destruction of the control tower at the Saki military airfield in Novofedorivka. At the same time, a ground-based repeater used by Russian forces to control Goran and Gerbera attack drones was destroyed near Chornomorsky.
Крым остается таким плацдармом, с которого...
Crimea remains a launch pad from which everything that can fly is launched. Drones, aircraft that are still based there, ballistic missiles, hypersonic weapons, all of this involves Crimea. And therefore, yes, I am sure that the disruption of logistics will continue. We do not really have a choice, because for the Russians, Crimea is indeed a critically important military infrastructure hub, and all of this requires time to exhaust their resources.
An Associated Press analysis published in August 2026 confirms that Ukraine carried out 3 times as many long-range strikes against targets inside Russia in July as it did in January. The campaign has forced the Russian military command to disperse its air defense systems in an attempt to protect facilities in the country's rear areas.
As the war with Iran drove up energy prices and prompted the United States to ease some sanctions on Russian oil, Kyiv stepped up strikes on oil infrastructure to deprive the Kremlin of revenue from fuel exports. Strikes are also being carried out against defense production to undermine Russia's long-term ability to manufacture weapons, as well as against air defense systems and retail warehouses, from an Associated Press report.
Ukraine will continue striking Russian military infrastructure, naval assets, logistics, fuel and energy facilities, and defense industry enterprises. The aggression that the Kremlin intended to wage exclusively on foreign territory has now definitively evolved into an asymmetric war of attrition, reported by Victoria Chistyukina, UATV News.
That's it for today. I'm Anita Murgun. Thank you for watching the segment. We appreciate your time and effort a lot. Please also share, comment, subscribe to UATV. We got you covered on whatever tomorrow holds for all of us. Always in Ukrainian perspective. Stay safe and see you soon.